So, welcome back to Conditionals Part 2. This time we're going to talk about the unreal variety. So, when we talk about unreal, what exactly does that mean? So, let's talk about the unreal tenses. So, past tenses can be used to talk about imaginary, unlikely, or impossible situations in the present, past, or future. Now, look at the example. I wish I spoke English better, but I don't. No, I don't speak English better. So in this example, the past simple is actually referring to the present, but we use the past simple because it's unreal. No? So I wish I spoke English better, but I don't. Now, when we apply this to conditionals, we usually consider the second and the third conditionals unreal conditionals. That's because the second conditional are used to talk about imaginary, unlikely, or impossible situations in the present or future. And of course, if a situation is imaginary, by nature, it's unreal, no? And the third conditionals, no, these are used to speculate about things, how things might have been different in the past. And again, it's a hypothetical situation, so hypothetical means that it's unreal. Now let's focus on the second conditionals. So we use the second conditional to talk about unlikely events or situations in the future, or improbable, impossible events or situations in the present. Now, so if I had enough money, I would retire. Do I have enough money? No, I don't. So I don't have enough money. Present, no? But if I had enough money, I would retire, no? I might work harder if they paid me more. Do they pay me more? No, they don't, no? So, but if they did, well, I might work harder. So remember the formula, the typical formula is if plus the past simple, no? With would, could, might, among other options, no? But these are the most typical ones, no? Now, was or were. In the if clause, in the second conditional, we can use were instead of was. Of course, I'm referring to first person singular, I, no? And third person singular, he, she, or it, no? For example, I'd quit my job if I were rich. It's perfectly correct. We can also say I'd quit my job if I was rich, no? So both options would be correct. But we must remember that in the expression if I were you, we cannot use was, no? So if I were you, always with were. Now, let's have a look at some modifications we can do to the second conditional. So let's have a look. We've got second conditional plus were to plus infinitive. Now, like should and happen to in the first conditional, we use this verb structure to make the event in the second conditional more unlikely. Now, so let's have a look at the example. If you were to walk in that direction for another 1,000 miles, you'd eventually arrive in Warsaw. I mean, are you really going to walk thousands of miles? Well, probably not. So this is even more unlikely than a typical second conditional sentence. No? So if you were to do something, now hypothetically, okay? We can make it more formal. Now, we can make this type of second conditional sentence more formal by omitting if, but beware of the consequence. Now, remember, we saw this also in first conditional, and the consequence is inversion. Let's have a look at the example. Were they to break the contract, we would, of course, take legal action. So if they were to break becomes were they to break. Now, again, remember the inversion must look like a question, no? With my auxiliary, my subject, and my main verb. No? Were they to break the contract, we would, of course, take legal action. Now let's go on to third conditional. So we use the third conditional to speculate about events or situations that were possible in the past, but which did not happen. So essentially these are impossible situations unless you have a time machine, which I don't think you do, unless you're holding out on me. Have you got any secrets you need to tell me? These situations essentially are impossible. Now, let's have a look at the example. If you had been paying attention, you would have understood what I was saying. But you weren't paying attention and you didn't understand. No? So both verbs in the third conditional refer to actions, events, or situations in the past. Now again, the typical formula is if plus past perfect can be simple or continuous. No, continuous like my example. We would then use would, could, might plus have plus past participle. Now this would be the most typical formula for a third conditional. Now again, we can make it more formal. And the good news here is that all third conditional sentences can be made more formal by, well, If you've been paying attention, you should know that it's omitting if and using inversion. So let's have a look at the example. Had she known about his criminal past, she would never have hired him. Well, essentially, this is if she had known. No? If she had known becomes had she known. No? Again, it looks like a question. Auxiliary subject, main verb. No? Had she known. If she had known. No? Now, there are some interesting things that we need to know as well about our conditionals, especially second and third conditionals. So we have some different structures. No, we can use but for, or we can use if plus not before plus a noun. No, let's have a look at the examples. It will become clearer with the example. But for your help, I would never have got the job. If it hadn't been for your help, I wouldn't have got the job. No, so these sentences essentially mean the same thing, no? But for your help, if it hadn't been for your help, no? And really, what does it mean? It means because of your help. Now, it's more typical to use these structures, in third conditional than in the second conditional, but essentially we can use them in both, no? So far, so good? Mixed conditionals. Now, I absolutely love mixed conditionals because they break formula. Now, let's see. Mixed conditional sentences are formed by mixing the second and third conditionals. Now, they can be used to speculate about how a different situation in the past might have had a different result in the present. For example, if you hadn't stayed up to watch the film last night, there's the past, no? You wouldn't be tired now, that's the present. No? So if we essentially mix the past and the present, well, we need to mix type 2 with type 3 or second and third conditionals, no? Or we can also use mixed conditionals, no, to express how changes to a present situation might have influenced the past, no? If I weren't broke at the moment, well, that's the present, no? I could have bought you something decent for your birthday last week. That's the past, no? So essentially, we mix the part of the formula, no, according to the context of the sentence. If it's referring to the past, I take from type 3 or third conditional. If it's referring to the present or future, no, I take from type 2 or second conditional. No, that's why they're called mixed, because I mixed the formula for type 2, second conditional, and type 3, third conditional. So far, so good? Now we're nearly done, and this is really fascinating. No? In some situations, if can be followed by will, would, or going to in the same clause. Say what? Now, it's not necessary to do this, but it adds a nice nuance to the sentence, no? So we would use it to express the following functions. Requests. If you will come this way, Miss Smith will see you now. Insistence. Well, if you will keep on eating chocolate, it's no wonder you're putting on weight. Refusal. If you won't turn down the music, we'll just have to call the police. Result. If it'll help you relax, I'll make you a cup of tea. Intention. If we're going to go for a walk, I think we should leave now. And willingness. If you would just let me explain, I'm sure you'd change your mind. Now again, these functions are related to the use of these verbs, the would, the will, the going to, in their normal usage. Again, it's not necessary to use these nuances, but it does give a nice touch of natural expression. Okay? So that's it for today, and that's it for conditionals. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk again soon.